So hello, everyone. Thank you so much and welcome to the show. And it's so exciting to have this awesome team here.
Great honor to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, thanks.
So you are part of what we're calling the Freedom Team in Wellesley. And so I would love to know, what is the Freedom Team? Can we start with you, Chief?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The Freedom Team is a group of volunteers, basically some citizens, some who work for the town, but not in an official capacity, that reach out to people who are victims of racial issues or bias. And we try to offer any type of assistance that we can, whether that's emotional support or getting them, the victims, some type of professional help or anything that we can do. So the team is represented by all types of people from the town, all different colors, creeds, religions, so we really have a diverse group of people who can assist anybody who needs assistance.
Awesome. Donna and Tendai, would you like to weigh in on that? And what does the Freedom Team mean for both of you?
After you, Donna.
All right, sure. Well, I think I would reiterate what, the chief said. It's an opportunity for us to really give some assistance to people that feel that they've, experienced some kind of racial injustice or, some encounter with someone. And, it really is about just being supportive, talking to people, and then, if we can refer them to appropriate resources. So.
Yeah, I'll just add to the fact that is in obvious stark contrast to the backdrop of what's going on nationally and internationally, right, where there's a lot of racial stress and tension. And to the town's credit, the town is being proactive, is actually looking for a solution to the racial tension and creating, an opportunity to meet these things head on.
And what inspired the creation of the Freedom Team?
It's a good question, and I'm not sure I know the exact answer. We had an incident reported to the police department involving a couple of Asian Americans where they were approached by somebody who used some hatred terms towards them. And they reported it to police and we investigated it. Unfortunately, there was no crime per se. That's not to say what happened was okay. Obviously it wasn't. But I think I was talking with members within the town, different people in the town, and somebody had mentioned that the town of Natick had this Freedom Team. And I reached out to the Natick chief and he explained to me what they did. And in his words, they like to wrap their arms around somebody and offer any assistance that they can. So after I found out what was going on in Natick, we, with the help of Megan Jopp from the town hall and Amy Frigoletti, we reached out to different members in the community to see if they'd be willing to assist us with this team. And I called Donna, never met her before. She was delightful on the phone. She jumped at the chance to help us. I think Megan called Tendai, and he was great. We enlisted help from HRS in town, from Rabbi Sapphire at the temple, there's a whole list of people that we're working with.
Excellent. And there are other towns that have freedom teams.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're all calling themselves freedom teams. They might be. Franklin is doing one, Hopkinton, Waltham, and of course Natick.
Nice. And how's our Wellesley Freedom Team similar to or different from the teams in other towns? Do they all have the same parameters, or are they quite varied?
I think we all have pretty much the same goals. Natick has more members on their team at this point. Right now, I think they're involving the schools, and we're not there yet. We're not ready to reach out to the schools and say, how can we help you? The schools in Wellesley actually have assistance that they can offer victims, without our help. But at some point, we'll expand a little bit and add some members.
Right. And Donna, you were going to say something.
Yep, I was going to say, I think right now we're being really reactive. So if there is an incident, we'll get involved and provide any kind of assistance that we can. I think it was in Natick where they've been proactive also, though. They've done some, programming. They've had some events where they invited the town to participate. Again, we're not there yet, but maybe we'll do that in the future. We're lucky here in Wellesley to have, for example, other organizations that do proactive things like the World of Wellesley. But again, so there's some differences, but I think we're starting the same way that Natick started, which was being reactive and trying to provide assistance to people.
Tendai, would you like to weigh in on that?
I think my former two colleagues have summarized it well, that each one of these charters, so-called charters, are trying to form their modus operandi, and we're all learning from each other. One similarity I think that's going to be very important is training. So we actually need everybody in the team to go through some sort of basic training to make sure that we know how to handle these crises, but also, to deal against our own biases. And that's one of the things that this really affords us, is an opportunity as we're serving the community to be somewhat introspective.
Right. And so who are the people that this program or initiative assists? Can it be anyone in town, any citizen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it can absolutely be anybody. Our flyers are everywhere. Anybody can call in, with a complaint. Sometimes, even if they come to the chief, then he refers some of these cases to us.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes the police department gets notified. Unfortunately, there are a lot of incidents that happen that the police department never finds out about. For some reason or another, people are reluctant to go to the police and tell them what happened. And a lot of those times, again, it's not a crime according to the law, but it's still, it's hate. And we need to respond to that. So if somebody comes to the police department, even if it's not a crime, I'm going to turn them towards the Freedom Team. And if it is a crime, if the Freedom Team can assist them during the course of that process, the legal process, the Freedom Team will certainly do that.
And so what's the process like? If someone calls and says, "Oh, I have something to report," does that come directly to the police department, or does it go to someone else?
There are two ways to get a hold of the Freedom Team. One is by email, and one is by a phone number. And the phone number is 339-216-0124. And the email is wellesleyfreedomteam@gmail.com. Or
Right.
somebody could walk into the police station and ask to speak to me, and
Right.
I'm
Right. So it goes through your office, and then you will redirect people.
not necessarily. No, we have a phone, and that phone gets passed around to different Freedom Team members. So kind of like on call.
Mm-hmm.
So if you call that number, anybody on the Freedom Team could answer. And we have somebody who's not a police officer, not in the police department, who checks on the email.
Great. Oh, that's great to know. And what are some of the instances? Have there been a lot of instances in Wellesley since you formulated the Freedom Team? And what are some of the things that people have called in about?
I'm talking too much. I'm gonna let my partner.
I know.
Donna-
We're gonna let Tendai take this one. This is Tendai's.
Okay, I'll jump. So we call this a hot potato. No, I'll give an example. Chief mentioned that a lot of these are not crimes, but one was basically bordering on crime, where a person who was a store manager saw somebody was acting inappropriately, went up to them and very politely asked what was going on. The store manager happened to be an African American. The person who was creating the disturbance that actually began to disturb other customers happened to be white. And what happened is this gentleman basically hit this store manager, which you could call assault if the store manager decided to press charges, and then threatened to create further harm with a weapon. And when all this was said and done, the police were called, and obviously this was processed through the chief's office. And this is a very good example of where the chief came to the Freedom Team, brought this up, and asked, actually reached out to this store manager, who is a very productive member of our community. Donna had bumped into him a couple of times. And that's the beauty of having people who are residents on the Freedom Team, is that we interact with these people. We often know who these people are, who may be victims of racial abuse. And so what happens, the chief brought this up, and the gentleman said he was fine. He said he was fine. Thank you very much, chief, et cetera, et cetera. And to the chief's credit, when we were discussing it together as a Freedom Team, we said, yeah, but he's probably going to say that to you, chief. He's probably going to say he's fine, but we don't think he's fine. And there's a black machismo. I said there's a black machismo that us black men will basically won't go and cry on the chief's shoulder, right? And we thought it would be good to have other members of the community reach out. And one of us reached out to him, and he was able to identify with that person and was open about how things were going. And it was a very productive conversation. And I understand he's going to be having a summer barbecue or two if he gets vaccinated, I suppose. And that's the sort of way the Freedom Team resolves these issues. It's on one hand, there's a psychological aspect to it, but on the other hand, there's really just a human touch aspect to it. Is reaching out to someone, making sure that they understand they're part of Wellesley, which is a very open and welcoming community.
Right. Well, that's a great example. So you don't have to be a trained psychologist, but you can offer a human connection, which is oftentimes what really people don't have but need.
Absolutely.
And in this case, this, as Tendai said, this is a great example. The police department, we filed charges, not only assault and battery, but hate crime charges against this individual. He was arrested that night, right after the incident happened. But the Freedom Team also reached out to him, to the victim, and made a connection. And I think that the victim was very grateful that somebody was actually there to say, hey, nothing to do with the police department. We're not checking on, but the police isn't checking on you, but we want to know how you're doing.
Right.
And that goes a long way, I think.
And what's the diversity of members on the Freedom Team?
Oh, I'd love to answer that. And by the way, I left out something very important, which was that the store manager wasn't only assaulted, but he was actually called a racial slur. And that's why it was classified as a hate crime. So that's a very important point I left out. On our team, it's lovely. It's the United States of America, right? I mean, we've got literally everybody on this team. Chief jokes and says he's the Polish representative on the team. We've got African Americans, we've got Asian Americans, we've got people who actually represent the Chinese community specifically, which is a very important issue. As you know, in the last couple of weeks, we've been having the Asian violence, the spike in violence against Asian and Pacific Islanders in our country. And so
right?
Yeah, exactly. And just having those members of our community inform us about what it means, right, to go through this psychologically, but also what they were doing in terms of creating awareness. There were a couple of marches, peaceful marches, and things like that. So we also have, as you may have heard, leaders of faith. So we have the rabbi from our local Wellesley community, Beth Elohim, Rabbi Sapphire, and we even have a chief psychologist, social workers, and I think I'm pretty much talking about everybody so far, World of Wellesley. So a lot of different things. Even at one stage, we had someone visiting from the LGBTQIA community. So the point is, it's very diverse.
Right. Donna, did you want to add to that?
Nope. Just wanted to make sure he didn't leave anyone off. So.
And do you ever find moments where you all learn new things about each other as part of the Freedom Team, where you have conversations amongst yourselves?
Yeah, I will say, I think that's, certainly been another benefit, with such a diverse team. And as we talk about issues and, Tendai brought up the need for training, that's something that our social worker really emphasized. And, I certainly learned from that, and we're going to do that hopefully over the summer. So, it has been a great group. I've certainly grown from my experience with it, but, the key is, can we serve the community well? And I think we will.
Awesome. And so, go ahead, Chief.
I think that's for me personally, that's one of the best parts that's happened so far. I've gotten to meet new people like Tendai and Donna. Every time I see Donna, I just want to give her a hug, and I've never met her in person, but when I do, I'm going to give her a big hug. But these people are just great to work with, and we all know nobody stops growing, nobody stops learning, and to hear stories and to hear the backgrounds of some of these people, it's just amazing, and it gives me faith for humanity sometimes, and just that there is hope for us because we have such good people.
Right. Well, that is good to hear.
That's just
that
my
is
personal opinion.
That's a positive thing. So what are your predictions for the future, or the next 6 months, the next year for the Freedom Team?
I think, if I also jump in there, I think one of the things I'm looking forward to is the Freedom Team. We all talk about, is Freedom the right name? We're still not sure yet whether Freedom, but it becoming the Unity Team, because I think once we observe the fact that the preamble to the Constitution is to form a more perfect union, to me the sign that things are getting better is when we can talk openly, when we reconcile, when there's reconciliation, discussion about what has actually happened in this country, and where everybody has a sense of a shared future. I think that's what we're trying to create in Wellesley, and I hope that's what we'll see in our communities going forward. So more and more resolution of any ugliness that will happen, and the more and more that is seen as something that doesn't happen in Wellesley and something that Wellesley residents won't tolerate. That's a beautiful future.
Right.
I'd also like to add, we have a long way to go. Thank you for hosting us. We're trying to get the word out about what we're doing. So that's difficult. We're going to have to do some type of advertising. And these are the things that we talk about when we meet. How do we put the word out so that people know that there is a resource for them if they are a victim of a hate crime or racial injustice?
Right.
And
well, you came to the right spot.
Yeah, I heard you had 1 million viewers, so I think we're good. But whether it be posters, whether it be signs in store windows, whatever it is, we talked to the townsmen. They did a little blurb on us. The Wellesley report did something. So we have a long way to go. And we talked about the training. We need to learn how to not diagnose, but when we sit down with the victim, understand a little bit better what that victim might be going through and what that victim might need. whether it's some type of professional help or whether it's some type of just emotional support.
Right.
As I think Donna said, we're going to do that this summer.
Right.
So we're working on it, but we've made big strides, I think.
Excellent. And is this going to be, is this funded by the town?
No.
For all of you to, it's not, it's
volunteer. All of us volunteer our time. At one stage, we're meeting every Tuesday. I think we've just changed that now to every second Tuesday.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I agree with the chief. This is going to be there's a long way to go. But there's an ancient proverb I understand that goes, the journey of 1,000 miles has to start with a single footstep. And so we have to start somewhere. And this is a good start.
right. And you are a marathon runner, so you are a pro at 26K.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, you're right. That is one of my vices, I suppose, is running the marathon. But it's an honor to do so.
And Donna, do you have anything else to add?
No, Wellesley's a great town, and our objective is to keep that reputation. And we're a microcosm of America, so some bad things may happen, but as long as we react appropriately, hopefully we'll keep that reputation of being a great town. So
Awesome. Well, that's excellent news. Do any of you want to add anything else? We'll shout out to the Freedom Team.
Well, I just want to say something, a shout out to the town of Wellesley, that so far the town has actually stepped up, whether it was after the murder of George Floyd, where thousands of people turned up, peacefully marching and demonstrating, little high school kids, middle school kids with signs and their parents with them, and everybody had a sense it was historic. And I must say that my family and I are grateful. In 2016, unfortunately, we were victims of racial invective ourselves, and the town stood up, came and attended a vigil. We had hundreds of people who came to that vigil. So Wells has got a reputation for being an open and accepting town. I pray it stays that way.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And this will be on air, and hopefully a lot of people will see this, and the email and the hotline phone number, and people will know how to reach you, what you are, and all the great work you're doing.
Again, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much for hosting us, Rama.
My pleasure.
thanks so much.
Lots of fun.